Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 700 Club. All options are open. That's Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's warning to Palestinian militants after a deadly terror attack in the West Bank.
Well, Israel is on the brink of a full-scale military operation following 2 days of violence in the area. As Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl reports, their aim is to root out the growing entrenchment of terror groups in the territory also known as Biblical Judea and Samaria.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says all options are on the table after 2 terrorists murdered 4 Israelis in Samaria, also known as the West Bank.
I want to tell all those who seek to harm us, all options are open. We'll continue to fight terror with all our might, and we will win.
One of the terrorists was killed by an armed civilian, and the second fled and was later killed by security forces as he resisted arrest. Hamas and Islamic Jihad praised the attack, and Hamas claimed the assailants as its own, but stopped short of claiming responsibility for the attack. The violence prompted calls for more aggressive military measures against terrorists in northern Samaria.
Now is the time for a military operation in Judea and Samaria to return to targeted assassinations from the air, take down buildings, set up roadblocks, deport Palestinian terrorists, and pass the second and third readings of the law to impose the death penalty on terrorists.
I call on our Prime Minister to allow the IDF and the security services to attack the terrorists and return security to the citizens of Judea and Samaria.
In response to the murders, a group of Jewish Israelis rampaged through several Palestinian towns, setting cars and fields on fire and vandalizing homes. They were stopped by Israeli security forces. Tensions were already high after a major battle in the Palestinian Authority city of Jenin a day earlier. Palestinian militants attacked Israeli troops after they arrested 2 wanted men there. 5 Israeli security personnel were wounded and 7 Palestinians killed in the ensuing battle. To extract its troops, Israel used an attack helicopter in the West Bank for the first time in 20 years. Following that incident, Netanyahu said Israel was striking terrorists with strength and determination. Hamas and Islamic Jihad are promising to continue the attacks. For Israel, the question isn't how to deal with the accelerated violence, but how to stop it before it happens. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thank you, Julie. And as she noted, there was already great tension in the region before these terrorists murdered 4 innocent people. And when you think that Israel had to use an attack helicopter to withdraw troops in the West Bank, first time in 20 years, it's obviously a very volatile situation. And while Israel's military is being called upon to pursue aggressive action, we pray for the people in that region. In the last 18 months or so, over 100 Palestinians, couple dozen Israelis have been killed because of these conflicts. So please keep that entire region in prayer. In other news, Republicans are calling the Justice Department's plea deal with Hunter Biden more proof of a 2-tier justice system in America. Ephraim Graham has more of our top stories from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Andrew, GOP lawmakers and presidential candidates are calling the deal a slap on the wrist. The 53-year-old son of President Biden will likely avoid jail time in a deal involving 2 counts of failing to pay taxes and a felony gun charge. Our George Thomas has the details.
The president's son will plead guilty for failing to pay more than $100,000 in federal income taxes on more than $1.5 million he earned in 2017 and 2018. Including money he got from business dealings in Ukraine and China. He has since paid those taxes.
A lot of times with tax evasion charges, if the defendant or taxpayer pays the money, which apparently he did in 2021, was late, then there's not much of an appetite to go after them criminally.
In a deal with the Justice Department, Hunter Biden will also avoid going to prison for lying about his drug use on an application to buy a gun. Republicans are slamming the deal, drawing a contrast with the charges former President Donald Trump is facing over his handling of classified documents.
It continues to show the 2-tier system in America. If you were the president's leading political opponent, the DOJ tries to literally put you in jail and give you prison time. If you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal.
They've made him a very good deal, and he sucked it up like a Hoover Deluxe.
Meanwhile, Republican House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer, who is leading a congressional investigation on Hunter Biden's financial dealings, calls the DOJ agreement a slap on the wrist and claims there's more here than meets the eye.
What we've uncovered would suggest money laundering, would suggest tax evasion, would suggest racketeering, many serious crimes.
President Trump, who faces 37 criminal charges related to his alleged mishandling of documents, also criticized the Hunter plea deal, writing on Truth Social, "Wow, the corrupt Biden DOJ just cleared up hundreds of years of criminal liability by giving Hunter Biden a mere traffic ticket. Our system is broken." This as the former president explained to Fox News why he didn't hand over boxes of materials to authorities when asked.
Why not just hand them over then?
Because I had boxes. I want to go through the boxes and get all my personal things out. I don't want to hand that over to NARA yet.
Meanwhile, the president's trial in the documents case is tentatively set to begin August 14. George Thomas, CBN News.
Rescue crews continue the round-the-clock search for a deep-sea vessel missing in the North Atlantic Ocean with 5 people aboard. The Titan went missing Sunday, about 2 hours after beginning its dive to view the wreckage of the Titanic. The U.S. Coast Guard reported Canadian planes picked up underwater noises in the search area. Remote control vehicles sent to investigate have yet to detect the source of that noise. The 5 people on board include OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, a Pakistani father and son, British billionaire Hamish Harding, and a French expert on the Titanic. As of Tuesday afternoon, the Coast Guard estimated they had about 40 hours of oxygen remaining.
I'm terrified, I'm anxious. Every single second, every single minute feels like hours, and we're losing time.
Family and friends are praying for a miracle and calling on the world to join them. Pastor Greg Laurie joining in that call to prayer, posting on Twitter, "I pray for all who are trying to help these poor souls, as well as the people trapped aboard that tiny sea craft will call on the name of the Lord." He cited the biblical story of Jonah, who cried out to God from the belly of a fish and was delivered. The Supreme Court is denying a Christian college's bid to challenge a Biden administration rule on gender identity dorm rules. The College of the Ozarks in Missouri is attempting to revive a lawsuit over a federal transgender policy for dorm rooms and showers that would direct schools to assign dorm rooms based on gender identity and not biology. The High Court is refusing to take up the appeal of a lower court ruling, saying the college has no standing to sue because the government never attempted to enforce the rule. England's National Health Service is altering its policy on giving puberty blockers to children at transgender identity clinics. The NHS announced it won't, quote, routinely offer drugs to those under 18 until more is known about the long-term impact. The UK is the latest in a line of European countries questioning the use of puberty blockers. Finland, Sweden, Norway, and France are also taking a more cautious approach, citing lack of evidence the benefits outweigh the risks. A new global monument dedicated to prayer is under construction in the United Kingdom, complete with 1 million interactive bricks. The eternal wall of answered prayer will be visible from 6 miles away. CBN's Brody Carter tells us organizers are asking people to contribute to the project by sending their testimonies.
I never let facts get in the way of truth. I've been presented with so many facts about why this can't happen, and I've believed in the truth that God has asked me to do it.
For 19 years, Richard Gamble has pursued an audacious goal to build a monument to remind the world God still works through answered prayer and healing broken hearts. We talked about how it all started.
I was walking along here, and this flash just popped through my mind of building a wall where every brick represented a story of answered prayer.
Towering over 167 feet tall, the wall, modeled on a giant infinity loop, will rest at Coles Hill in Birmingham. The national landmark's 1 million bricks will link to answered prayer.
People will be able to come and they'll be able to point their phone at any one of the bricks, even the ones that are miles away, and their phone will light up and it will tell them the story of hope that lies within.
Several times I've been able to share that testimony with other people.
Michelle Heritage witnessed the power of prayer as a single parent after God provided for both her and her child.
And it was really amazing to see how provision came in, how the work that I'd lost was actually replaced in a much better way, with work that was better paid, that was actually better suited to our lifestyle as a family in a new situation.
Michelle's story is just one example of the answered prayers that will rest in the monument.
The power of this is going to stand for hundreds of years.
After 2 decades of planning, Gamble plans to break ground in 2024. He hopes to be operational in 2026. Now, Gamble's asking for your help by simply sharing your story of answered prayer.
We have this funded. We have planning permission. I've got approval from the Prime Minister's office. The hardest thing is getting Christians to give us 5 minutes of their time to actually share a story of what God's done.
So if you have a story of answered prayer, I would really encourage you, write it down and be ready to share it, because your story of hope can be a stepping stone for the next person's breakthrough.
Richard also hopes this landmark will help break negative perceptions against faith, especially in the UK. There, some surveys show only 31% of adults attend church. Brody Carter, CBN News.
I'm reminded we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Andrew?
That's right, Ephraim. I was thinking the same thing. Isn't that interesting to hear the visionary behind that say the funding wasn't the problem, approval wasn't the problem, it's getting Christians to give 5 minutes to tell about an answered prayer. You know, Scripture calls us to be witnesses. To be witnesses. What does a witness do? A witness tells what happened. What did he or she see or hear or experience? So we can brag on God and what he's done for us. And I encourage you to, in your own personal journey with the Lord, make note of answered prayer. Make note of answered prayer, because as you know, maybe months or years later, if you're in a season of doubt or struggle, it's so encouraging to look back and see how God has worked. So great word there and a great reminder. Thanks, Ephraim.